Good morning. Almost March. 37 degrees out here in the northern Midwest, which is like 50 degrees warmer than it was 2 weeks ago. So I saw an interview, I think yesterday or the day before, with Grant Cardone, the billionaire next door, or excuse me, undercover billionaire. I think that this show is finally coming back on Discovery. I assume that they got a chance to finish it because they started it and then they got shut down. So I haven't seen that it's coming back, but I know he's getting interviewed on it. I think the biggest takeaway, and I learned this reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you got to kind of constantly remind yourself because I know that I forgot over the years. But what's the biggest difference between people who are wealthy, like truly wealthy, financially free, versus people who make money but don't ever end up with wealth? I mean, the one thing you learn from Rich Dad, Poor Dad is that a lot of times the people with all the stuff really don't have any net worth, and the people with, that look like they live a moderate lifestyle end up with a lot more net worth. A lot of times the lawyers and the doctors, when they die, don't have a significant net worth. It's the union worker that saved his money and did his 401k and that type of stuff. But to truly be financially free, not just, there's a pile at the end of my life that I can pass on, the biggest difference is wealthy people, they think about money differently. First of all, they always come from a place of abundance. They always look at it as there's more than enough. You've just got to go create value and then you can generate the income. But they don't buy things, they buy assets. That's the biggest distinction. And that's really the takeaway from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's the takeaway from Undercover Billionaire. If you watch Grant Cardone in Undercover Billionaire versus the other two people went out and got a job. And Glenn Stearns, when he did Undercover Billionaire, he did what Grant Cardone did. He did not go out and get a job. He started immediately developing relationships and creating value so that at the end, his company could be worth $1 million in 90 days. Now, for Glenn Stearns, it wasn't worth $1 million in 90 days, but it was worth close to $800,000, which is pretty good for 90 days. And Grant did the same thing. He started immediately creating relationships, and then the first thing that he did was to deliver value to the other people. And the other two participants did this too, if you notice. They immediately found people and delivered value. But they then went and got a job in order to make ends meet, which Grant didn't do that. But each side, every person involved is looking for who can I develop a relationship with that is going to give me an opportunity to create wealth in the future. And the first thing I'm going to do when I get that relationship is I'm going to give that person value before I ask for anything back. Then when they do get money and they want to spend it, they don't buy the car or the watch or the purse. They buy an asset that delivers them money, and then the asset buys them the car or the watch or the purse. In simple ways in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you want a car that's going to cost you $50,000, go buy a house that costs you $70,000, borrow $50,000 from that house, use that to buy the car, and then the renters in your house pay for your car. So at the end of the day, when the car is now worth nothing, you still have a house and you still have cash flow. That is how wealthy people think. They buy assets. They don't buy debts. They don't buy things. They buy the assets that then buy the things. So, a lot of ways that people get started out in something like this is a duplex, right? That's the easiest way to get started is you buy a duplex, rent out one side that is enough to pay for both sides, and then you get to live rent-free. That's a great way to get started in something with this whole idea. The other thing to remember that wealthy people do is they think long-term. They think 10 years from now. They don't think 10 days. When they're buying an asset, they're always looking at it in terms of 10 years. Now, can you do any type of plan for 10 years nowadays in the world with technology. No, that even a 5-year plan is a waste of time. But are things always going to cycle? The cycle's always going to be the same. Technology is going to change how it works. Like right now, the stock market. Stock market's flying high, is going crazy. And things that are going crazy in the stock market is now SPACs. If you haven't heard of a SPAC, it's a new way to take a company public. Well, does it look similar to what happened during the dot-com era in the late 90s? Of course it does. It looks exactly like that. Does it look similar to the other times when the stock market was flying high for no reason? Absolutely. People are putting money in stocks that might make money 5 years from now. Okay, well, when's the last time that we did that? Every time right before the market had a big problem. Why is that happening? Because there's too much money, because there's too much liquidity. This is a cycle that has happened before. So the technology changes the way that it works, but the cycle itself is the same. Same thing happens with real estate. So wealthy people look at it long term. They buy the things when nobody wants them. Baseball cards and cards of all type are crazy again right now. Again, because people are looking for places to put money. Now, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that market looked like it was over and was never going to come back. If you were really smart, you bought high end in that market 12 years ago and you were patient. It was a risk, but you took the risk, and now that would in fact pay off. The other thing, so they look at things in terms of 10 years. They look at things in terms of long term. What is this going to be 10 years from now? And what's the cycle been in the past? So if the adage on Wall Street is you buy when there's blood on the streets. And that means, and that came from people jumping out of the windows in 1929 because there was literally blood on the streets because people were actually jumping out of the windows. Well, that was the perfect time to start buying in the stock market. So when there's blood on the streets in real estate, time to buy. When there's blood on the streets on high-end collectibles, time to buy. If there's no blood on the streets, time to wait. And that's exactly how wealthy people look at stuff. The last thing that they do is when they do buy, they buy quality. They don't buy just to buy. They buy making sure that what they're getting is the quality that they want. So if it's real estate, it's in the market that they want, in the area that they want. If it's collectibles, they buy the high-end stuff or they don't buy. Because one thing that always holds true is if a collectible ends up worth something, the ones that are worth something are only the top tier. The next level down drops off like the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California. So when they do buy collectibles, they buy the high-end stuff that's only going to be in limited quantity. Why did the baseball card stuff lose all of its value in the past? Because they printed too many of them. What happened to Remington art? Well, it started out it was going to be worth a great deal of money, and then they made too many of them, and so then it was worth nothing. The reason Bitcoin is holding is because they've promised that there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin, and then that's it. If they decide to produce more, the value of that will decrease dramatically, which is, by the way, what's happening to our US dollar, because 1 out of every $5 that's in your pocket right now was dumped into the market last March in order to pump up the stock market so it didn't collapse. So what happens? Well, now the dollar has been devalued and everything else is going to go up in price because of inflation. It's the same cycle that has happened in the past. So if you do buy collectibles, you buy them when there's blood on the street, and you buy the top tier only, and you stay away from everything else. Always enjoy listening to Grant. One of my favorite reasons for listening to him is because for me, he just vibrates at the energy that you need to in order to achieve the results that he has, in my opinion. You want a plane, you want a helicopter, you want all that stuff. Watch how he vibrates. That's how he approaches every day. And you can see why he's generated what he has. Great to see everybody. Oh my God, is today Wednesday? Hump day! Mike. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.